Hello everyone, welcome back to my B&B Today spoiler channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Los Angeles had survived more than its share of secrets, betrayals, hidden children, and impossible family connections. But nothing could prepare the Forrester and Spencer families for the truth that was about to come crashing into their lives. For weeks, Dylan had carried herself as though everything were normal. She walked the halls of Forrester Creations with practiced confidence, buried herself in work, and did everything she could to convince Will Spencer, and perhaps herself, that the questions surrounding her past didn't matter. But Katie Logan had noticed something. It wasn't simply Dylan's growing closeness with Will that troubled her. It was something harder to name. Every time Katie looked into Dylan's eyes, she felt a strange familiarity. A gesture, a smile, the way Dylan tilted her head when she was nervous, that pulled her toward a memory she'd spent years burying. Now, with a sealed DNA report sitting on the table in front of her, Katie understood that instinct had been warning her all along. The young woman who'd unexpectedly entered Will's life wasn't merely an outsider. Dylan was connected to the Spencers in a way that could change everything. Dylan stared at Katie from across the room. "Why did you ask me to come here?" she demanded. Her voice was strong, but Katie could see the fear underneath it. Bill Spencer stood near the window, arms crossed. Will stood beside him, already irritated by all the secrecy. "Mom, what's going on?" Will asked. "You said this was important." Katie looked down at the envelope in her hand. "It is." Dylan's eyes followed hers. "What is that?" Katie hesitated. "A DNA report." The room went silent. Will looked between the two women. "Whose DNA?" Before Katie could answer, Bill stepped forward. "Katie, whatever you're about to say, say it." Katie looked directly at Dylan. "Yours." Dylan froze. "My DNA? You tested me?" "Not exactly," Katie replied. "I had something compared, because there were questions I couldn't ignore anymore." Dylan's face hardened. "You had no right." "You're right," Katie admitted. "But when I started recognizing things about you, things connected to someone from my past, I needed to know if I was imagining it." Will stepped protectively toward Dylan. "Mom, this is crazy." But Bill wasn't watching Katie anymore. He was watching Dylan. Something in Katie's expression had already told him that whatever was inside that envelope wasn't going to be simple. Katie slowly unfolded the pages. Dylan shook her head. "No. Whatever that says, I don't want to hear it." "You need to hear it," Katie whispered. Dylan turned toward the door. Will caught her hand. "Dylan." She stopped. His expression softened. "If this is about you, you deserve to know." Dylan looked terrified now. Katie's voice trembled as she read. "The laboratory confirmed a biological family connection." Will swallowed. "To who?" Katie's eyes filled with tears. "To the Spencer family." Bill's face changed instantly. "What?" Dylan stared at Katie as though she'd spoken another language. "No." Katie held out the report. "The results are conclusive." "No," Dylan repeated. "That's impossible." Will released her hand and stepped backward, stunned. "Wait, what kind of connection?" Katie couldn't answer right away. Bill crossed the room and grabbed the report himself, his eyes moving rapidly across the page. Then he stopped. For perhaps the first time in Will's life, he saw his father completely speechless. "Dad." Will looked at Dylan. His confidence was gone. "This can't be right." "I had it checked twice," Katie said quietly. Dylan's breathing turned shallow. "What does it say?" Bill couldn't bring himself to answer. Dylan crossed the room and pulled the report from his hands. Her eyes searched the page, the probability, the relationship, the conclusion, and her hands began to tremble. "No." Will came closer. "What does it say?" Dylan looked up at Bill, tears spilling over. "It says Bill Spencer is my biological father." Nobody moved. Will stared at her. Bill stared back. Katie closed her eyes. And Dylan simply stood there, holding the piece of paper that had just rewritten her entire life. Aftershocks. Will found his voice first. That's not possible. Dylan turned to him. I didn't know. Will, I swear to you, I didn't know. Bill took the report back from her. Katie, tell me exactly how this happened. Katie explained that her suspicions had begun after hearing more about Dylan's mother and the circumstances of Dylan's childhood, certain dates that lined up too perfectly. Years earlier, during a chaotic period in Bill's life, there had been a brief connection he'd almost forgotten. At the time, neither of them had known a child might have resulted from it. Dylan's mother had disappeared from Bill's orbit before he ever learned the truth. Bill looked shaken. I remember her. Dylan's eyes widened. You knew my mother? Bill nodded slowly. Yes. The answer seemed to hurt Dylan even more than the DNA report itself. All my life, she refused to tell me who my father was. She never told me about you, Bill said. How convenient. Dylan. No, she shot back. Don't stand there acting like we're suddenly family. Bill's expression tightened. I'm not acting. You're Bill Spencer. You have money, investigators, connections. You're telling me you never knew? I didn't. Dylan let out a bitter laugh through her tears. Then maybe my mother had a reason for keeping me away from you. That landed hard. Will stepped between them. Everyone needs to slow down. Dylan turned to him, and the horror returned to her face all at once. Will understood in the same instant, their relationship, their feelings, every kiss, every possibility they'd imagined. If Bill was Dylan's father, then Will and Dylan shared a father. They were half-siblings. Will stumbled backward. Dylan covered her mouth. Katie moved toward them. Neither of you knew. Dylan shook her head desperately. I can't do this. She ran from the room. Dylan, Will called after her, starting to follow. Bill stopped him. Give her a minute. Will turned on him, furious. Give her a minute? Dad, she just found out you're her father. I know. And I just found out the woman I've had feelings for is my sister. Bill had no response. How does something like this happen? Will demanded. Katie stepped forward. Will. Nobody did this deliberately. Somebody knew something, Will said, staring at the report. Katie's expression shifted. That, she realized, was exactly the question. Had Dylan's mother truly carried this secret to her grave, or was someone else still hiding part of the story? A sister's comfort. At Forrester Creations, Electra was working when Dylan rushed past through the hallway. One look at her face told Electra something terrible had happened. Dylan. Dylan kept walking. Electra followed. What's wrong? Leave me alone. Did something happen with Will? Dylan stopped short. Please don't say his name. Electra was stunned. Only hours earlier she'd worried that Dylan was becoming a real threat to her relationship with Will. Now Dylan looked completely broken. What happened? Electra asked again, gentler this time. Dylan's tears finally broke loose. He's my brother. Electra's mouth fell open. What? Dylan laughed once in disbelief. Apparently, Bill Spencer is my father. No. Yes. How do you know? DNA. Electra couldn't speak. Dylan turned away. I spent all this time fighting feelings I shouldn't have had. Wondering if Will might choose me. Wondering if you were standing between us. And now I find out there was never any us. There could never have been an us. Whatever jealousy had lived between them suddenly seemed meaningless. Electra's anger dissolved. She reached out and touched Dylan's shoulder. You didn't know. Dylan looked at her. Everyone keeps saying that like it's supposed to make this easier. It doesn't make it easy, Electra said. But it matters. Meanwhile, at Spencer Publications, Will was still furious. Katie tried to comfort him, but his mind kept circling back to every moment he'd shared with Dylan. I should have known. How could you have? There had to be signs. No, Will. He looked at her sharply. Did you know before today? I suspected a connection. I didn't know what the results would show. And you didn't warn me? I wasn't going to destroy people's lives over a suspicion. Bill stood quietly nearby. We'll round it on him. And what about you? Bill's jaw tightened. What about me? How many secrets are there, Dad? Watch yourself. No, you watch yourself. Every few years, someone shows up and the Spencer family gets rewritten all over again. You didn't know Liam existed until later. Wyatt's story wasn't exactly simple either. And now Dylan. Bill slammed his hand against the desk. I did not know. Silence. If I had known I had a daughter, Bill said lower now, I would have found her. Katie watched him carefully. Despite everything Bill had done over the years, she believed him. Will, she said. He wasn't ready to hear it, but prove it. Find out why her mother never told him. Bill looked at her. That was already exactly what he intended to do. The letter. Within hours, Bill had his people combing through old records, dates, photographs, travel logs, medical documents. Anything connected to Dylan's mother was pulled together. One discovery made Bill go still. There was a letter, he told Katie, sent to Spencer Publications years ago. From Dylan's mother. Katie stared at him. What did it say? I don't know. It never reached me. That changed everything. Somebody at Spencer Publications had intercepted a letter from Dylan's mother, years ago, and buried it. Bill's anger boiled over. If she tried to tell me about Dylan, and someone kept that from me. We don't know that's what the letter was about, Katie cut in. What else would it be? Katie had no answer. Across town, Dylan sat alone until Electra brought her a glass of water. You don't have to stay, Dylan said. I know. Then why are you? Electra sat beside her. Because I know what it's like when family secrets turn everything upside down. Dylan looked at her. I thought you hated me. I hated what I thought was happening between you and Will. Now I think you're hurting. Dylan began crying again. I loved him. Electra didn't know how to respond right away. I know how terrible that sounds now, Dylan whispered. No. You loved the person you believed he was to you. You didn't know. Dylan nodded slowly. I can't stay in Los Angeles. Electra's eyes widened. Don't make that decision tonight. How am I supposed to walk into a room and see Bill as my father, Liam and Wyatt as my brothers? Will, she couldn't finish the sentence. Electra took her hand. You don't have to figure out your entire life today. But Dylan had another fear gnawing at her. What if the DNA test is wrong? Electra searched her face. You think it could be? I don't know. I just know my mother never once mentioned Bill Spencer's name. That question sent Dylan straight back to Katie. The second envelope. By evening, everyone had gathered again, this time with Liam and Wyatt present too. Wyatt looked at Dylan with stunned curiosity. So it's true. Bill nodded. As far as the test is concerned. Liam exhaled. Wow. Dylan folded her arms. That's one way of putting it. Wyatt stepped forward, trying for lightness. For what it's worth, discovering you're part of this family unexpectedly isn't exactly unheard of around here. Bill shot him a look. Not helping. I'm trying. Despite herself, Dylan almost smiled. Then Katie walked in holding a second envelope. Everyone turned. Bill frowned. What is that? Katie's face was pale. A second test. Dylan stood immediately. You ran another one? After what happened today, I wanted independent confirmation. Will entered behind her, his eyes meeting Dylan's for just a moment before both looked away. Katie opened the envelope. Well? Bill demanded. Katie stared at the page. Her expression changed. Katie? Liam asked. She looked at Dylan. The first test was correct. Dylan closed her eyes. Bill nodded grimly. Then that's settled. No, Katie said. Everyone looked at her. It's not. Bill frowned. What do you mean? Katie held up another page. The expanded family analysis found something else. Dylan's heart pounded. What? Katie looked between Dylan and Bill. The paternal match is confirmed. Bill is your father. Then what else is there? Wyatt asked. Katie turned toward Will and her voice faltered. The laboratory also compared additional samples. Will's face tightened. Why? Because there was an inconsistency in one of the profiles. Dylan whispered, "What inconsistency?" Katie looked at Bill. Dylan's maternal family markers produced a match, too. Bill stared at her. With whom? Katie struggled to get the words out. With someone connected to the Logan family. Now it was Katie's turn to look devastated. Dylan stared at her. "What are you saying?" Katie shook her head. "I don't understand it yet." Bill took the report from her hands. His eyes widened as he read. "This says Dylan's mother had a close biological relationship, too." He stopped. Katie finished the sentence for him. "To me." Will stared at his mother. "Mom." Katie's eyes filled with tears. "Dylan's mother wasn't simply my friend." Dylan went pale. Katie looked directly at her. "According to this analysis, she was my biological half-sister." The room erupted. "What?" Liam exclaimed. Bill looked completely stunned. Dylan couldn't breathe. If Katie's discovery was accurate, Dylan wasn't just Bill Spencer's daughter. She was also connected by blood to the Logan family. Dylan whispered, "You were my mother's sister." Katie shook her head. "I never knew." Bill stared at the report. "This is insane." But Katie suddenly remembered something. Her mother, Beth, once vaguely referencing a difficult period in her younger years. Something Katie had always assumed was simply another piece of unspoken family history. Could there have been another child? Could Dylan's mother have spent her entire life knowing she belonged to the Logan family, while Katie, Brooke, and Donna remained unaware? A complicated family. The revelation kept growing. Brooke and Donna were called, and when they arrived and heard what Katie had uncovered, Brooke immediately demanded another round of testing. "We need absolute certainty." "I want every test possible," Dylan agreed. Bill nodded. "You'll have it." Dylan looked sharply at him. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Act like my father." Bill's expression softened. "I am your father, biologically. For now, that's all I'm claiming." The answer seemed to surprise her. "You don't know me. I don't know you. I'm not going to pretend a DNA test gives me the right to walk into your life and demand you call me Dad." He paused. "But I am going to tell you this. If your mother tried to contact me, and someone stopped her, I will find out what happened." Across the room, Will watched them. For the first time, his anger began giving way to something else. Dylan had lost even more than he had. He walked over carefully. "Can we talk?" Dylan looked uncertain, but nodded. They stepped into the hallway. For several seconds, neither spoke. Finally Will said, "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For how I reacted. You found out I was your sister. I think you're allowed to react." "I made it about what I lost," Will admitted. Dylan looked down. "We both lost something." Will nodded. "But maybe we found something, too." She looked at him. "A family. A very complicated one." She laughed through her tears. "That might be the understatement of the century." Will smiled faintly. Then Dylan's expression turned serious. "I don't know how to be your sister. I don't know how to be your brother. So what do we do?" "Start with being two people who care about each other," Will said. "Everything before today, we don't erase it. We just understand it differently." Dylan finally hugged him. It wasn't romantic. It was something new, something neither of them had expected. From inside the room, Electra watched them, tears rising in her own eyes. Katie noticed. "You okay?" Electra nodded. "I think so." But Katie already knew this revelation would change Will and Electra's relationship too. Dylan was no longer a romantic rival, but the emotional aftermath of everything that had happened wouldn't disappear overnight. One more secret. Then Bill's phone rang. He answered without taking his eyes off the room. "Spencer." His investigator spoke for less than a minute. Bill's expression darkened with every word. "Send it to me," he said, and ended the call. Katie stepped toward him immediately. "What?" Bill lowered the phone slowly, his face unreadable. Whatever the investigator had found, it was clear this wasn't over. Somewhere in the last 24 hours, a single DNA report had unraveled 2 families at once and revealed a decades-old secret that someone had worked very hard to keep buried. Now Bill intended to find out exactly who.